the takeaways you had from yesterday. I think, Ashley, what I'd like to do is maybe hear from 2 or 3 people. I already see one hand up. Now I see 2. So just let me know who's going to share, and let's get some ahas from this morning.
Okay.
Well, this is a fun name. I don't know how you pronounce it. I'm so sorry. I'm getting to learn how to pronounce a name this morning. Who are you unmuting, Ashley? Do you know this person's name?
I don't.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah, but it won't. For some reason, I'm not able to unmute this.
Oh, there she. Okay, now it's unmuted. Go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Can you teach me how to say your name correctly?
Nigina, or you can call me Gina.
Gina, well, your name's Nagina, so how about I call you by your name? So good morning, Nagina.
Good morning.
What's your lesson or your aha or takeaway from yesterday?
Well, I just downloaded the PDF and I started learning it. The most ahas is your mindset, your positive outlook.
Yeah. You've got to keep your mindset in the right spot, Nagina. That's why on our front yard, we have a sign out there today that says, "We've got this." So the whole neighborhood can stay positive. And if your mindset is not right, then nothing else matters. I love it. Thank you so much. Appreciate you very much. Okay, I see a couple others. I see Joe and Hank and Liliana. So it looks like you're unmuting Joe Kipping, one of my favorite people on earth. So as soon as his mic's unmuted, Joe, how are you? Good to hear from you, buddy.
I'm doing well. How are you, buddy?
I'm good.
Fantastic. So going back through this shift book, the biggest thing for me is pricing. You have to price the properties correctly. Otherwise, because right now the buyer showings are down. Let's just be honest about it, right? Showings are down across the board. Contracts are happening, and then buyers are just uncertain with what's happening in the market. Contracts are falling apart. So the pricing of the properties and trying to coach the other agents as to things that they can say to their buyers to try to hold these deals together are super important right now. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway is making sure we're pricing the properties correctly for the market.
Joe, let me ask you a question real quick. Even with showings down, have you noticed, either whether it's listings you've got or buyers you're working with, is inventory tight and competition still pretty fierce? Or have you noticed a shift in that too?
It's still pretty fierce and competition's still tight, but listings are coming on the market. I mean, just in the past 10 days, we've taken 4 listings, right? So, and watching other markets, I think we're going to start seeing more inventory hit in the market. I definitely think we're going to start seeing more inventory hit the market.
I think you're right. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you. Good to hear from you. All right, Hank, you'll be our last one for this, and then I'm going to jump into another piece. Hank, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good.
Nice to have Tampa represented today.
I appreciate that. Well, technically Orlando. Live in Tampa, in Orlando, But the thing that I see, a substantial majority of the agents that are on this call, even if they've been in the industry before 2014, predominantly since 2014, the only sales contract they've used is the as-is contract. And even for the agents that have 10, 12, 15 years in the business, it may have been several years since they used the contract that has the repair limits in it. So the thing that hit me yesterday more than anything else was the agents need to get back to, or if they've never used it, they need to find out how to use the contract with repair limits in it and actually negotiate repairs and learn how those 3 sections on the home inspection, termite inspection, and permit repair limit interact with, going forward on the contract.
Hank, it would make sense for some market centers to have their brokers review and teach the contracts so that we're not just filling out blanks and we actually know what we're doing, right?
Yep, and that's what I put on the Facebook page to our group yesterday, is I'm going to teach that one as soon as practicable.
That's good. Awesome. Hank, appreciate you. Real quick, somebody asked a couple questions, then we'll jump in. Inspections. And I talked yesterday about doing a pre-inspection, and somebody said, who pays for it? Well, anybody could pay for it. I think you recommend it to your seller as something and ask them to pay for it. Or could it be a service that you offer? Whatever you think makes the most sense. All right, let me share my screen, and we're going to get in and talk about our homework really quick. So We should be good, I think. Here we go. Oh, come on. Get big. There we go. Awesome sauce. All right. So what I'd like to do is take a second and clear out this exercise because I asked you to do it yesterday, and it's page number 55 of the manual, the workbook, where you were to go back and look at your top lead sources. And get ready, I'm going to call on some people to contribute. So if you'd like to contribute, raise your hand now to make life easy for Ashley. Because what you're going to do is walk through what ahas did you have as you looked at your top lead sources, and then I'll walk you through what I'd like to do. Because I wanted you to look at the top 10 so that you could begin to really narrow your focus on the stuff that works. So raise your hand if you've got a thought about the that particular exercise and what lead sources worked for you. Do we have some hands up?
Here we go. One just came in.
I love that. Crystal, oh, we heard from you yesterday. You're very smart. I like you. So Ashley's going to mute you. Crystal, what, as you did this exercise, was the takeaway for you?
The takeaway for me was a couple things. So first of all, that there were some things I was pouring money into that I still have not seen any return on. So, right now in a market like this, I'm going to get rid of those things and focus more on other things.
Yes.
And the other thing is I need to learn to be creative because I get the vast majority of my leads from door knocking, which I can't do right now. So I need to figure out how to virtually door knock.
So tell me, what are your top 5 sources?
My top 5 sources are door knocking, calls to my sphere, open houses, and FSBOs.
Okay, so door knocking, calls to sphere, open house, FSBO. Those are your top 4. All right, so then here would be the lesson from this, right? Gary says, here's what we do. We double down on the top 4 or 5 that are working. Well, you're going to eliminate one of those 4, right? So, because we are not going to go door knock. You're absolutely right. We're not going to door knock. So how do we replace that? Well, Crystal, if I had to ask you right now in front of 1,000 of your closest friends, what would you replace door knocking with? What would you just say, spur of the moment, no wrong answer?
FSBOs.
Okay, so you might double down on your number of FSBOs because that's where that would be a spot for you to gain more traction because it's already one that's working for you.
Yeah, I guess so. Calls to my sphere probably work a little bit better, but on the pressure, I said FSBOs. So maybe that is what I really think.
Whatever you think, right? And I love some answers we're getting in here. Someone says Facebook virtual door knocking. Like, could you Facebook message people, stuff like that? Joel says, I asked for 10. Gary says no more than 3 or 4. Well, so I asked for 10 because Gary put in the manual to ask for 10. And here's the thing to think about is Gary doesn't say have only 3 or 4 sources. He said 80% of your business is going to come from 3 or 4 sources. We're going to have more than 3 or 4 sources of our business. The purpose of this exercise is sometimes we think certain sources are working and they aren't. And so when we go look at them, like Crystal said she was investing in things that weren't bringing her business. And once she goes and realizes those things aren't bringing her business, she eliminates them. Ashley, do we have another hand up? We do. I see you've unmuted Rachel. So Rachel's coming. Rachel, what's your lesson or takeaway?
Can you hear me?
I can. Oh, circle it on the bingo. Circle it on the bingo. Yes.
Are you wanting me to? I guess I misunderstood because I got here late. I actually had a question, but you're wanting somebody. You're wanting
I'll take your question. What you got?
So, you've been talking about identifying your lead sources, and I'm about 3.5 years into the business. Most of my lead source has been in the beginning of my business was door knocking, open houses, and referrals, and now it's been a lot of referrals. It's also been calling my sphere. And recently in the last 6 months, I had, don't laugh at me. I had signed up for some leads from realtor.com and I just wanted to test the waters. So I tried it for the first time, was smart about it, and did some zip codes that were not super expensive, but that I thought would give me the most bang for my buck. And I ended up getting one lead that I closed on over a $350,000 property in January, and then I am working one now that's like a $500,000 lead. And my question is, what is the percentage that you spend? What is Gary Keller's definition or formula for whether or not determining what you're spending is still worth continuing, or if you should cut it out with what's going on right now.
All right, Rachel. So great question. And I'm glad to hear that a majority of your business comes from your direct relationships. That's key, right?
Yes.
So, and by the way, that's the cheapest way to get business. It is always cheaper to renew business than find new business, right?
Agreed.
Renewing business is cheaper than new business. So good for you. And 3 years in, you should start to see a return on your database, right? With referrals.
I have, yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
So then the question you have to ask yourself is it's okay to spend money on your business? And I'm going to use a lesson I got from Rebecca Rivers, who's in your region. And when we taught the Shift workshop up in Jacksonville, she was in the room there with us, and she said something very smart, which is what Rebecca always says. And Rebecca said, when she and Jean go and look at what they're spending on their business, and actually, I don't know if either one of them are on this call. If they are, they're welcome to raise their hand and contribute here. When they spend money in their business, they go back and apply what we call the cost plus principle. Oh, Rebecca is here. Okay, so Rebecca, instead of me telling all the people, I would like you to tell all the people. So as soon as she's unmuted. Okay, Rebecca, remember when you said you go and say, look, not only do you expect a return, you want it to be a certain amount of a return for it to be valuable.
Correct.
So
Correct.
can you explain that to the people?
Yeah. So, if we're spending $1 and something is bringing us $5, that's good return. If we're spending $1 and something is bringing us $3, okay. But if we're spending $1 and we're getting $2 back, why wouldn't we put more money into the one where we spend $1 and get $5 back? So, even though it's working, you think it's working because you're making money on it and you're getting ROI, you need to look at which ones bring you the most money. And also nowadays, we need to look at the ones that take more time, because time is money. So even when you're just looking at it dollar for dollar, you need to figure how much time it took you to get that lead and make it a real lead. Does that make sense?
It does. It's like if I find a lead that say I'm paying an aggregate website for leads, and I do get a couple of things that came from that, except it took me 2 years to turn that into something. Well, I don't know if I actually made money, Rebecca.
Right.
Right.
Time is money.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now, by the way, we've got to make sure that we're turning money quickly. So for you guys, and Rebecca, you and Jean have lived through shifts as agents, as owners of market centers.
Yep. We've been through like 5.
This is number 5. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
So you've learned some things. When you look at getting a return, what's the one piece of advice you'd tell people? The most important thing when it comes to the cost plus principle during a shift?
The most important thing, it better bring you a really, really good return, or you better get rid of it. And basically, you better get rid of just about everything that you've got, because most of it, we just start adding it on when the business is good. And you don't even realize that you've gotten so far away from what really is your business, which is calling and speaking to people, just working your sphere. That, I remember I've been in real estate business 32 years. We didn't have any leads you could buy. And all it took was calling your database. And we need to realize that has not changed.
The basics are never outdated, Rebecca. How many times have you heard Gary say that?
Over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely
Thank you
true.
so much. I'm happy
Yep.
you're here. I'm sorry we don't get to see you today.
It's okay.
I wanted to see
I'm glad you can't see me.
Okay. So I'm going to read something to you that Rebecca brought up that I think is important, and it totally is right in line with what we just said. And this comes from page 31 of Shift. And it says that in growing times, we tend to become profitable with positive cash flow and loose with financial decision-making. We review the bottom line, see a profit, trust all as well, and fail to scrutinize the detail. And that's what she's saying is that, and by the way, again, that Shift page 31, Ashley, if you'll put it in there for me. And so here's our opportunity is make sure you're getting a massive return. And the point of page number 55 in the workbook is that is this. If we're going to double down on our lead generation, we're going to spend 4 hours a day, and we're going to spend, we're going to do 20 to 40 contacts a day. Let's do it in the place that's already getting us a massive return. In other words, instead of adding a strategy when you increase your lead gen, double down on the strategies that are working. So if a majority, to our friend who was on, I think it was Rachel, if a majority of your business, quite frankly, comes from your sphere of influence calls, if that's a huge piece for you, and let's say you average 10 contacts a day to your sphere of influence, well, double that to 20. And don't necessarily go buy more leads or add another bucket, right, of a lead generation source. Go now and double the contacts to the sphere. Okay, somebody says, should I be sending out postcards to my farm? Tara, yeah, if you're getting a good return on that, right? So I think some people made the mistake in the shift before that they stopped communicating with their people. So I want you to follow Rebecca's model. If you're getting return, if you're spending money and making a significant enough amount that it's worth it, then keep doing it. In fact, I've known people in the past who've actually increased it. Now, only increase it or do it if it's working for you. Someone says, if you're new to the business and move to a new state and don't know who to call, well, first is, I want you to call everybody in your phone. Every person, I don't care where they live, and just touch base with them and check on them. Okay, Ashley, we're gonna do Susan and Keith. I see they're popped up. Let's get their thing, and then I'm gonna truck it forward, all right? So Susan and Keith, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Are you Susan or Keith?
I'm Keith.
All right, Keith, how are you, buddy?
Good. I was just going to say that the number 1 and 2 things for me have been street signs and my existing database. And I think what I learned is my referrals and networking, which was always good, I really need to up my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Get the social media presence up. Keep your calls to your sphere going and take more listings, because when you take more listings, your signs go out, Keith.
Yep.
Yep, there you go. Love it. Thank you. Okay, so people, you're asking very specific questions about farming. Again, I'm going to go, is it giving you a return? How do you know if it's giving you a return? When you send out a postcard, people call you. That's how you know. All right, let's keep going. So if you were on the call this morning, and just type in the box, yes, if you were on the 8 a.m. call. I talked a little bit about, here we go, this right here. Thank you. I see a bunch of you. I talked a little bit about what I believe to be the number 1 thing that determines your ability to succeed. Now, the exercise we just cleared out and the one you did for homework was something that helped you figure out how effective your lead generation efforts are, what specific strategies are working for you. Now, in order for you to win with that, though, we've got to implement the next piece, which is how to time block your day for success. In other words, to act on all of this, you've got to know what you do next. And here's what Gary says. Now, in the book, Gary says 3 hours of lead generation a day. Type in the chat box and make sure you do it to all panelists and all attendees. Type in the chat box, what did Gary tell us last week or 2 weeks ago we've got to do for amount of time of lead generation? There you go. Ann Wright is the winner. 4 hours. 4 hours. He said you got to do 4 hours. In the book, he maps out what that looks like for us, where he says 3 hours in the morning, and an hour to an hour and a half in the afternoon. 3 hours. Now, the way that's broken down is like this. And I want to make sure we get it. Prepare, and I want you to type into a chat box so that everybody can see it, and I'll read some of it, and make sure you do panelists and attendees. What sorts of things might you do in the prepare portion of your lead generation time? What types of activities might take place there? Paige says review scripts, and Paige, and Chris says it to a bunch of people. And I want to say, not only do we review them, we role play and practice them. In fact, who your role play partner is right now might matter more than it's ever mattered, right? So a lot of that. Okay, Jessica says, who am I going to call? Yep, you got to figure out who your calls are going to be that day. I love it. Your DTD2, somebody says, find the numbers that you need to call. Make a list. Okay, Millie says, I'm going to pull my daily MLS statistics. That's really smart. Because right now, if you remember, what's our script? Our script is, how are you? How's your family? What can I do for you? And then they say, we're good or whatever, blah, blah, blah. By the way, how's the market? Oh my goodness, the market's still moving. You know, you wouldn't believe it that today in Pinellas County, we had this many homes go on the market and this many homes go under contract. So you got to know your stuff. Now, for prepare, folks, this is 15 to 30 minutes. 15 to 30 minutes of the 4 hours is prepare. Somebody said, build your bunker. Esther, you're so smart, build your bunker, because you're probably working from home. And as I said, on the other side of this door right here is an 8-year-old girl who happens to be dressed as Amelia Earhart today, who is getting ready for school. And so I got to make sure I have a bunker so we can work, so I can work and she can work. Really smart. All right, so 30 minutes of prepare. The next thing is take action, and that's going to be 3 hours. 3 hours of action. In the chat box, tell me, what is an action step? What is an action step? What are some of the actions we're taking? Joanne, call, call, call. Liliana, call. Yeah, here we go. Call. Make the call. Make the call. Okay, you got it. You got it. Don't call me maybe. Okay, just call. And smile and dial. There you go, Megan. I like you. You're my new favorite. So that's 3 hours of focused time of calling. Now, by the way, does it have to be on the phone? Do we have to call these people, Leslie? Do we have to dial for dollars on the phone? Wendy Hughes is a genius. Can we unmute? Wendy Hughes, would you raise your hand, please, so we can unmute you? Wendy Hughes is one of my favorite people on earth. She's an amazing agent in Jacksonville. And I would like to walk through what you just said, because I think this is really, really important. So Wendy, you're getting unmuted right now, because you said, Wendy, there you are. It's not just phone calls. How else are you communicating with your people?
So it's a great time to reach out on Facebook, do the private Facebook messaging. If you've got people in your database that you're not connected to Facebook and LinkedIn, go ahead and request a friendship and a connection. And make sure if you do it on LinkedIn that you send a message, because you can type out a little message when you request a connection on LinkedIn. And so, I mean, I'm not on Instagram, but I guess now you can do the same thing on Instagram. And
you can connect everybody's social media. And Wendy, are you video calling people like through Facebook Messenger, or are you just sending them a note?
so I haven't been doing the video, but that's a great idea, because we're using video through BombBomb, and we're doing the virtual video open houses. And so that's a great, you're right. So that's something I'm going to start doing.
Well, and your daughter can help you. I know she's smart with that stuff. So she can help you, teach you how to use the Facebook Messenger.
Yes.
That's really good. And then another one I've been so fun with is this Marco Polo. Oh my goodness. If you've been playing with the Marco Polo, you can have these conversations back and forth with people really easy. So that's fun. Wendy, are you sending any text messages?
So yes, we're doing text messages. And one thing that I've done is I set myself up as a contact in my phone. It has my picture. It has, I even did it for like all the, like past president of PwC, ALC member, Bold graduate, you know, CEO of Hughes Group Jacks. And then I have my office address, very professional looking contact. So then when I'm doing my and I'm like, oh, I want to make sure that I'm in your phone. I'm going to share my contact with you. Can you please make sure you put me in your phone? So then it has everything in there. And so I got a real compliment. Another agent that was connecting with, she said, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I'm like, well, I saw that at a family reunion event. And so it's a great way for us to get in people's phones real quickly.
Genius. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Rebecca said you're wise, and it's absolutely true. So I appreciate you sharing.
Thank
All right, Ashley Parr, I want you to talk about what you said in the box. You said 2 things are important during this take action time. You talked about recording numbers, and then you talked about how you're using multiple streams.
Yeah, absolutely. So our team, every single day we report our numbers. So the easiest way to do it, especially for those of you that are like me and like to write things out firsthand, we actually have sheets that we print out. So we're circling the number of dials we're making, we're circling the number of contacts, appointments asked for, appointments set, nurtures created. And at the end of the day, we put those into our systems, because that's where our Rainmaker Map Ohannon will be able to track everything and see, you know, where we are, where our business is coming from, you know, where are our numbers and where do we need to be. And then secondly, when I was talking about the action plan, so we use Follow Up Boss as our system, and we've created a lot of action plans. And what's really cool is we don't let anything fall through the cracks. So, you know, if we get new leads in the system, or no matter where they're coming from, when we add them in there, we set them up on an action plan. So not only are we just calling them each day or texting them, we're hitting them with combinations. So, you know, I get a new lead that comes in, and I'm calling them twice a day minimum. And we're also sending out text messages and emails the same day. So, you know, don't be afraid to use the combination, because that, you know, you don't know what anybody's preferred method of contact is until you actually speak with them. So,
Right.
you know, until then we need to do whatever we can to get that contact.
We got to stay in touch with them and find multiple ways, and they will get back to us. I think that's the thing I found right now, is that you're probably, Ashley, getting more replies than you used to get.
Yeah, I mean, typically what we would see, a lot of people, they give up after, you know, 2 or 3 times of trying to contact. We're contacting at least 8 times, like just via phone call. That's not on top of the text messages we're sending, emails, things like that. And that's every single day for 2 weeks. And then after that, we still call, we still make the contact. We just kind of dwindle it down from every day to maybe twice a week.
Okay.
So, you know, it depends on how you want to set that up.
Love it, Ashley. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing that. And thanks for letting me call on you.
For sure.
All right. So the take action piece is really important. And that is, it is focused 3 hours of time connecting with people. And the number where I'd like to see you be is at about 40 contacts a day and 20 meaningful conversations. I think that's really important. And the platform on how you're doing it is less relevant to me than the fact that you're having the conversations. All right. The M is maintain. And that's 30 minutes, right? 15 to 30 minutes. Type in the chat box what happens in maintain. What sorts of things would you do in the maintain step so that you're staying on path here for this prepare, take action, maintain. So type some stuff. What happens there? Well, now why aren't y'all typing? There we go. Oh, well, so add. Okay, Millie, this is when you update your database, right? You're going to add your notes to command, put in what needs to happen, do your thank you notes. If you need to look up a CMA, you might do it then. If you're going to go pull homes that might work for their search, you're going to do it then, stuff like that. So here's what I want. And a lot of you are putting follow-up calls in there. That is not a maintain step. So I'm going to talk with you about that in just a second. Here's the thing I want you to understand about this prepare, take action, maintain. You do all your prepare at one time. Who am I going to call? What am I going to say? Role play the script. That takes you 15 to 30 minutes. Then you do all your take action. That is 3 solid hours of smile and dial. Then you do your 30 minutes to maintain. Write my follow-up notes, update command, so on and so forth. What some agents do that will slow them down is this. Who am I going to call today? Let me see. And they pull open their phone and they start scrolling and they're scrolling and they're scrolling and they go, oh, okay, I'll call this person. And they call them, oh, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you might be interested in something else. Okay. Oh, I'll send you a CMA. And they put their phone down and then they go do the CMA. And then they go back. Who am I going to call? Then they call them so on. Be very careful about that. In fact, don't be careful. Just don't do it that way. Because when you do it that way, it slows you down. All right? It absolutely slows you down. It's not effective. Make your list, practice your script, figure out who you're going to call. That's all one thing. Then you call them, and then you maintain. You do your follow-up notes or whatever. If you do that, you'll be much more effective. You'll get more contacts that way. Now, follow-up is a whole separate block. Lead follow-up is a separate time block of when you're going to check in with people who you need to check in with. It doesn't happen in the maintain step. That might be a separate time block. So I hope that was of some value to you. Now, let me walk you through another thing that's really important, and I'm going to scoot past a couple of these things and get here. Page 61 of the manual. Page 61 of the manual. When we're talking about lead generation, what we're really talking about is filling our pipeline and creating opportunities for us so that we have business to do moving forward. And remember that whatever we do now is either going to bring us a check or a bill this summer, right? The activities that we do right now will bring us a check because we did the right things or bring us a bill because we didn't. So if we're going to lead generate, we want to make sure we're lead generating in the right way. And understand that there's 2 M's to this, your message and your method. Now, this is really important because we got to make sure that we are in alignment with what people are experiencing right now. Your message must match the market. Well, the market right now, quite frankly, is a little bit of uncertainty. Our lives have been thrown up in the air. Everything is changing. And so for your message to match the market, the script is, how are you doing? How's your family? What can I do for you? Right? So your message has to match the market. Next, your message must make an offer, right? So think about what can you offer? So when you say, what can I do to help you? Is that making an offer? What's the answer? Just type yes in the box, right? The answer is yes, that's making an offer. If they say to you, by the way, how's the market? And you go, you know what? You wouldn't believe it. In Tampa, this many homes went on the market, this many went pending, so the market's still good. Have they opened up the opportunity for you to ask for business? Type yes in the box. They have. So you can make a direct offer there. If you follow the graph on down, you can make a direct offer, which is, yeah, the market's pretty, it's still moving. In fact, who do you know? Who do you know that's looking to do something right now in this market? And we heard all sorts of ideas yesterday on lead gen strategies, right? Or you can make an indirect offer. The market's still moving. If there's anybody that you know who I can help, we are here. We're still in business. I'm happy to help them. That's the model. You might screenshot this or, excuse me, you have it on page 61 and put this in front of you. The message has to match the market. You make an offer. The offer can be direct or indirect, doesn't matter to me. Now your method is next. And the method is really two things. You prospect and you market. Now you do both, by the way. In the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Gary says that you are marketing based and prospecting enhanced. That's what he says in MREA. In Shift, he says you're prospecting based and marketing enhanced. You got to go all in on prospecting first. So let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to prospect. It's not either or. Like it's not just, I'm just going to smile and dial and not do any marketing. And it's not, I'm just going to market and not do any prospecting. We do both. So I want some people to talk with me about how you're implementing both. What are the strategies you're doing to make sure you prospect and market at the same time? Raise your hand. I've got some ideas I'm going to share with you. And I want to hear from you too. How are you prospecting and marketing all at once? Ashley, let me know when we have some hands up. I want to hear from a couple of people very quick. All right, here we go. I have Jane. Jane, so you're prospecting and marketing. What specifically are you doing?
I think that's me, Janet.
It is. Oh, Janet. Oh, I'm sorry. It's all runs together. So I apologize. Janet, it's you.
Yes. So as I'm calling, I can also tell people about a listing that I have that's active, or let them know about the virtual open house that I'll be having tomorrow. And could they help me out by sharing it? That sort of thing.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Janet. I'm sorry I called you Jane. I'm sure Jane's nice too. Janet's even better. Appreciate you very much. Okay, Mark, thanks for joining us again today. I know you've got something really, really smart to say. What did you want to share?
Very simple. I'm going back to the Tony DeSello method. So I'm calling through all of my sphere, of course, and out-of-town people, as we talked about yesterday. And then what I've also started to do is to print out the Tony DeSello, who the buyers that I'm working with are. And in my neighborhood, I'm just printing that on a one-page sheet of paper, and I'm handing out sidewalk chalk. On one side, it's, hey, let's have a neighborhood sidewalk chalk challenge. And on the back side, it's, here are the buyers we're working with. Who do you know that their house matches this, what they're looking for?
Perfect. I love it, Mark. Thank you very much. And so that's really, really, really smart. That Tony DeSello flyer of here's my buyers, who do you know that has a home that would work for them, is so good. I love that you're adding something to it to bring a little bit more value. And that's marketing, and it's got an offer for direct response on it. Mark, thank you very much for sharing with us. I also think now's the time to leverage social media. If any of you are doing a market stat update for the day and post that on your Instagram, post that on your Facebook, get that stuff out there, I think it's all really good. So I want to ask you a question. I'm on page 63 of the manual, and I'd like you to think about some answers and be prepared to share with me. And that is this: what offer would motivate someone to transact in a shifted market? And what concerns or misperceptions would it help address in the message? So what offer would motivate somebody to transact in a shifted market, and what concerns or misperceptions would it help address in the message? Ashley, just put them on up as their hands go up. And I see you don't have to, oh, they're talking about just talking to people. Okay, in the chat box. Any hands up, Ashley?
No, no hands.
So what would motivate somebody to transact in a shifted market, and what concerns or misperceptions would it help address? And I'll tell you, I think, are there people who think that the market's shut down completely? And the answer is yes. If we tell them that it's still moving forward, then they might get a different idea. Crystal, thank you for raising your hand and being back to share with us. What did you want to add to this about what offer would motivate someone to transact in a market, and what misperceptions would it help address?
Offering them safe ways to show their home or show homes, explaining exactly how you're doing that. And then concerns or misconceptions, address the concern that you can't view homes right now and that it's physically unsafe to do so. And the misperception that people aren't buying. Throw statistics at that.
Very smart. Thank you, Crystal. I think that's a great way to go and turn in and say, hey, here's my plan. Like if you created a one-sheet image or something like that, you went in designs and command and create a thing. Here's how we're showing houses right now. Homes can still be shown. That's great. Leslie.
Hi. How are you guys doing today?
We're all great.
Awesome. So I think you just need to be real with them. Tell them the truth. Mortgage rates are still at the lowest in history, and our inventory is now even lower than it was before because people have taken their homes off the market, and there's buyers out there.
Right. In fact, somebody posted in the chat box too that limited supply is turning into multiple offers. So it's a great time to list. So Leslie, thank you. You're exactly right. Mike says, address fears with facts. And that's the very next thing we're going to talk about. We absolutely have to address fears with facts. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, real quick, I know Matt has been listening to Abe Shreve a lot, and he picked up a really cool line that I thought was awesome, and I know Matt had shared it with us because he really liked it, but he basically said, in a time of uncertainty, do you want to take advantage of the opportunities that lie ahead? And do you have the means to do so? And a lot of people, they have that fear of missing out. So why would they not want to jump on the opportunities? You know, and it was just like the last shift we have, it's completely different, you know, in a sense, but at the same time, there were so many great opportunities as well. So, you know, having that conversation, leading them from fear of the uncertainty, just say, hey, you know, in this time of uncertainty, there's a lot of really good opportunities that are going to be coming up. Are you ready for them? Do you want me to include you in those?
It's genius. And by the way, the people who want to do it will say yes, and the people who don't will say no, and they'll move on, right?
Exactly.
That hard. Love it. Thanks, Ashley. Appreciate you very much. All right. So I want to, as we clear this out, I want to get your ahas from our conversation around lead gen. We had started it yesterday, finished it this morning, looking at, you know, what are your top 10 lead sources and where to double down, how to set up your day, and how to communicate the opportunities in the market. And I love it. Trina says she can't take notes fast enough. Well, good thing we're recording it and we're sending it back out to you, right? That's really cool. So somebody share, what have you heard this morning that's been of value to you already before we talk about shifting your activities to thrive? Raise your hand or type in the chat box. What are your ahas? Trina says everything. Well, I'm so happy to hear that. That makes my day. It brings me great joy to hear that that's working for you. Excuse me. Okay, Alan, we are unmuting you. Stand by. I'll tell you. There you go. Alan, what you got?
Hey, James. Thanks
What's
again
up, man?
for putting this on, by the way. This is
My
just
pleasure.
amazing. Love you guys. What I got out of it was basically marketing while you're lead generating. I hadn't put that into perspective, just hugging and kissing and getting great results from it, but that was a real aha.
So when we market, it amplifies our message. You cannot be all prospecting all the time, Alan. If all you do right now is smile and dial and call people, there's a burnout factor that's going to come into play, and you're going to flip your desk over. So we've got to add some marketing into it as well, Alan. Great to see your picture and hear your voice. I appreciate you very much. Lori says, do your preparation first and at once. It's more efficient. You're absolutely right, Lori. I love that. Tara says, increase your lead gen time instead of decreasing it. Absolutely. I love that. Patrice, thanks for being on. What do you want to add?
Well, my aha was the taking action part and making the phone calls, because I'm one of those people that when I'm taking my notes right there and I stop and I do it right then and there instead of doing it later. And that's exactly what's slowing me down. And that was a huge aha for me. And I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you learning it, because now you will find a way to become more efficient. You know, I want you to think about, in the one thing Gary Keller tells us, that multitasking is a myth, and that multitasking isn't really multitasking, it's switch tasking. You move from one thing to another. And every time you move from one thing to another, your brain has to stop what it's doing, figure out what it's going to go do next, and then go do that thing. And that takes time to do that. So realizing that you can make that change will help you tremendously. I love that. Kelly says she's going to get up early, take a shower, and get ready to work. Treat your days like normal days. I think that's huge for you. And then Mike says, you know, think about an offer that you can make that would cause them to transact in today's market. Absolutely right. All right, so let's move forward and talk about shifting your activities to thrive. We looked at lead gen, which is one chapter of shift. We're now going to go dive a little bit deeper into 3 other tactics of shift. That's pricing to sell, which is what Joe Kipping brought up earlier, motivation for buyers, and then bulletproofing the transaction. And I think one thing we've got to think about is how we are using data to help us. And you might write down this little bold law that says logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. Logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. And it's important that we use both right now, right? One of the primary issues in real estate transaction is pricing. Joe Kipping brought it up earlier. And he said it's essential that we price properties correctly the first time out, right from the beginning. Because in fact, you might jot this down, that 80% of your marketing is price, and your job is to generate more leads. So there's a lot of places you can go in and pull the data, whether it's using Market Snaps, you're going into the MLS and pulling the information about what's going on. I think that there are some risks to overpricing property in any market. In fact, if you would, type in the box, what are the reputational risks of overpricing property? Type that in the box, and I'm going to share some of the answers, because Joe brought it up. He said, if you don't price right from the beginning, you're in trouble, especially when showings are down. So Dawn says longer days on market. Absolutely. You can't sell the house fast enough. Okay, Tamika says incompetence. And what I think she's basically saying is the agent looks like they don't know what they're doing. So we have to remember there's 2 reputations. There's the reputation of the house and there's the reputation of the agent, right? And we want both to be good. Christina says we end up chasing the market, or it's on the market too long. Joe says I love Joe. He's a good dude. You really don't know your market. Paul, too many showings and no offers is absolutely right. Ashley says when you chase the market, you have disappointed customers. So you've all given great answers, absolutely great answers. There are reputational risks. So now I want you to type in the box, what kind of knowledge or skills do sellers need their agent to possess? And I'm on page 77, so you can start filling in the answers to this. What sorts of knowledge or skills do you think an agent needs to have? And I'll read out some answers for you. We're on page 77. Market stats. Tara says, we got to know the market stats, got to know our numbers. We have to know how to negotiate, and mastery of scripts. I think all those things are great. Market stats, know how to negotiate, master our scripts. Because how many of you get have ever been out-scripted by a seller on price? Just type I have in the box. Yeah, me, or I have. If you've ever been out-scripted by a seller on price, and I want to ask you the question, who's the professional? And if you're the professional, then you can't get out-scripted. Tony DeCello says that a shifted market is a skill-based market. A shifted market is a skill-based market. And Gary goes deeper and says, in a skill-based market, you are best served to practice your scripts, hire a coach, and have some form of accountability. You've got to know your scripts. Yeah, absolutely. Joe says, don't let the seller sell you on how much better their house is than the comps. And he's exactly right. And some of you get sold on that before. So tell me, why are statistics, type the answer in the box, why are statistics and numbers so helpful for a seller? Would you type that in the box for me? Why are statistics and numbers so helpful for sellers? And Crystal says, we fight fear with facts. They're facts. The numbers don't lie. Paints the picture. We're still missing the right answer. Show, don't tell. Facts, not my opinion. Show. Oh, there we go. Ken Hansen, one of my favorites, who is the only person I know who can sell the same house 14 times in a year. Ken says, stats don't lie. They're not emotional. Here's what happens. When we get in the data, we remove the emotion. And that's why it's really important. We got to make sure we get into the data. Thank you, Ken. And remove the emotion. You're exactly right. So I want you to start thinking about trends. Look at the screen here. And knowing what you know about a market, I want you to look at trends. And let's say that your market, let's say it was May. And in May, we had 1.6 months worth of inventory on the market. In July, we moved to 2.8 months of inventory on the market. And in September, we have 4.3 months of inventory in the market. Okay, think before you type. So just think for a second before you type. What type of market is this? Buyer's market, seller's market, or transitional/balance market? 4.3 months of inventory, where we are right now. What market is this? And if you wrote sellers, you're correct. It's a seller's market because anything 5 months or less is considered a seller's market. Now, which way are we trending? Trending toward a buyer's market, Justin, you're right. So technically 4.3 months is still a seller's market. Anything under 5 is a seller's market. 5 to 7, transitional market. 7 or more, a buyer's market. Our trend tells us the market's moving. Now, Joe Kipping, can you raise your hand? I want to talk to you. I know you can handle this. So Joe Kipping, raise your hand because I want to walk through this with you. You're a data guy, you're a fact guy, and I think I know exactly how you'd have this conversation. All right, Joe's getting unmuted. Joe.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's say that instead, like this is months worth of inventory. And my guess would be, would you have a different conversation in September than you had in May with a seller about price?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, so if you look at the sheet, look at the screen, it says 4.3 months in September of inventory, when in May we had 1.6. Let's say you're in September right now. Would your conversation in September be different than the conversation you would have had in May?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay, in what way?
Well, in a market that is super low inventory, you can overprice the property a little bit, and the market is gonna correct you as far as not correct you, but you're probably still gonna be able to sell that house, right? It's gonna go under contract fairly quick. When the market is rising and inventory is more, you have to price a little bit under market to sell that house. You have to be within all of the you have to be better than competition. The active comps are the most important comps in a market that's trending upwards like this. The sold comps, by the time the sold comps hit, it could be too late. So you need to make sure you're pricing, under what's on the market.
So there you go. You're exactly right. Now let me ask you another question, Joe. Would it make sense, I'm just thinking out loud, to do a chart like this that shows the change in the number of showings?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think what would that conversation look like if you went and talked with the seller right now and said, here's the number of showing requests, in Wesley Chapel over the last month, and you do it week by week? What might that conversation look like? Because we still have tight inventory. So we're still in a tight seller's market, except showings are down. How would you have that conversation?
Yeah, so what I actually had that conversation with the seller yesterday on a listing appointment that I went on, showing him the data that the buyers' showings are way, way, way down. And so basically, it's more or less just showing them the data and just relying on the data. Let the data do the heavy lifting, right?
Where are you getting the data?
From Showing Time.
All right, so you can pull it from Showing Time because they're using that in the MLS, and they break it down week by week, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we can show them we have the data on our listings as well, so we're able to show them, a month ago, look how many showings we had in the month for all of our listings compared to what it's looking like now. So pricing is more important right now in this market that we're heading into. If you're serious about selling your home, pricing right now is so very important. And you have to have your house in, like, you have to be the best house on the market in order to get your house sold. So
awesome. And you said, Joe, and thank you for doing this. Let me put you on the spot. You said you're having the data do the heavy lifting for you.
100%.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you very much. You're a good dude. I'm going to come to Mark next. So I think Mark's going to raise his hand because he said something in the chat box that's really good. And I want everybody to hear it, which is about why you're using visual data here and why you're using the chart. So Ashley, did Mark raise his hand yet? There we go. Okay, Mark, you said something smart in the box, which is just using a chart. Talk about what you're doing and why that's so important.
I appreciate you recognize that I said something smart because I usually don't.
Oh, come on. You've been killing it.
No, so we all, like most people, can understand simple visual graphics. And my comment was just simply laying this in a visual as a part of our as a listing presentation, along with that showing request chart. It paints the picture for the seller that you don't need to say anything. They just obviously understand that. And if they still don't connect the dots, what I'm starting to do is work in how this same economic principle is affecting gas prices. Hey, when we see more and more, inventory, more gas in the market, what does it do to gas prices? And everybody sees that and they understand it and they go, oh, now I understand my value of my home. If I wait too long, my value is going to drop as fast as gas prices are dropping.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And the other thing about gas prices, you can tell them too, is that the market can reject your price and force it even lower.
Absolutely.
So if you remember, Mark, a few years ago, we saw gas go over $4 a gallon. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
And the market rejected that price. That was the number where people started changing their daily habits, right? That instead of going out multiple times a day, we were going to go out twice a week to do all of our errands. And that caused gas usage to go down, which caused the price to go down. So the market will reject a price as well and force you to bring it down to stay in. So I love it. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. So I want to go through something to help you because I think pricing is really important. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit and I'm on page 87. 87, Ashley, is where we are right now in the manual. 87 in the manual. And this is what's our conversation look like when it comes to price. And there's three things that I think are really important. Number one is we've got to tell the truth. We've got to tell the truth and let the data tell the story. And every transaction should be a win-win. So do not try to soften the blow on this conversation just to get the listing. And I know some of you have done that. You have softened the blow to get the listing. And when you do that, it always brings you problems down the road, headaches and challenges, right? So as you talk with your sellers during your digital listing consultation, reinforce the concept of this, that you don't make the market, you only interpret it, and that our responsibility is to look at the data to use that to interpret it, and we're adding extra data points right now. So that's number one. Number two is leverage the media. Know what the news media is saying and be prepared to address it. Now, we've started to see real estate show up in the media conversation. Here's what always happens. Anytime we face an economic shift, a recession, anything like that in our country, here's how they do it. Jobs. First thing we look at, well, stock market first. They're going to look at the stock market and, it's blah, 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 all over the place. Then they're going to go look at jobs. Jobs is the next thing. We've been talking about jobs. What's the third thing they're going to go look at? Real estate. They're going to start talking about what's going on in the real estate market. The problem is they usually have no idea what they're talking about. And so we've got to be able to interpret that. So you need to know what the media is saying so that you're prepared to address it. And Gary says, be the local economist of choice and a local expert. And that's where you can use the market snaps. You can use data, real-time numbers to address it and be hyper-local. Now's the time to get hyper-local. Here's the thing. When you take a listing, you become the media. When you're working with a buyer, you become the media. As you're looking at the data, you become the media. So if the media goes out, and I've already seen some stuff that says that home sales are down and blah, 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 blah. And I think you've got to become the media and tell the story about what's really happening in your marketplace. Because sellers need an agent who has the facts and the figures and everything at their fingertips. In a shifted market, knowledge is power. You don't want them to be misinformed rather. You don't want them to be misinformed. So if the media tells you something that supports your position, you share it with everybody. If Tampa Bay Times runs a story today that says showings of properties in Tampa Bay are down 25%, I just made that number up, please don't go out and say that, then I would share that with every single one of my sellers and go, we probably want to reduce the price, and I'm going to include it in my listing presentation. If the media says something that's wrong, then you have to cut through the noise of that. And it's very simple, and I want to hear from anyone who's doing something like this. Daily Facebook Lives, daily posts on your Instagram, a daily market update to your sellers. I want to know from people, raise your hand, what ways are you becoming the media? How are you getting information out there to break through the noise? And then how are you leveraging the stuff that the media is telling you? Trina, you popped up on my screen, so you've got something smart to share with North Florida. Oh, we're getting you unmuted. Stand by, Trina.
It will not let me unmute her.
Well, Trina, you got to probably click your little unmute button if you want to talk, because I know you've got something really smart. If not, Ashley, we can just move on to our next friend.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Trina, you're there. What you got?
Okay, sorry about that. So
No
I do
worries.
Facebook Lives, and I've started doing Instagram Lives also. And I have been getting on with local businesses, restaurants, little stores, so that we can talk about what they're doing in their business and a little bit about what we're doing in our business as far as selling homes. And it's
So
working. Right.
You become the media. In what way is it working? How is it helping you?
Having people contact me also through social media. So I'm not necessarily getting a lot of text on it, but they'll respond back through social media.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Trina, for sharing. Thanks so much. Ashley, is there another hand up?
No, that was it.
Okay, perfect. So become the media. Love it. Thank you so much. The third thing we got to do is listen to our sellers. We got to listen to our sellers. And I would say listen more and respond thoughtfully. And this is really important. In fact, Joe says over-communicate. You're right, because I'll tell you, you can't over-communicate. Right now, Joe, and I'm sure you're doing this, you're probably reaching out once a day to your sellers to talk about what's going on in the market. Once a day. Listen more and respond thoughtfully. Make sure as you work with your sellers, you listen just as much, if not more, than you talk. Listen for their words, for signs of reluctance, watch their body language, crossed arms, avoidance of eye contact, and so on and so forth. Once you see a sign of reluctance, ask questions, listen to their answers to clear up confusion, because they're going to have them. Any of you, and you can just post it in the chat box, you can say yes or me or whatever. Have any of you transitioned your daily or weekly seller conversations from phone to Zoom? Have you transitioned it from phone to video? And if you have, how's it helped you? Okay, Lizzie, is this Lizzie Roper? Lizzie, raise your hand. I know your last name's not Roper anymore. Raise your hand, Lizzie, because I want to hear what you're doing. Ashley, let me know when her hand's up, because I want to hear what she's doing. All right, here we go. She's coming. She's getting unmuted. Maybe. This is so fun. Lizzie, how are you? Oh, she muted again. There we go, Lizzie.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you. Bingo.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm doing a video.
Oh, we lost her.
So
Go ahead, Lizzie. I'm going to give you one more shot. Say it again, because we lost you for a second.
I know my Wi-Fi is really bad here.
No
I'm
worries.
doing video with customers. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm taking advantage of the BombBomb videos through email, and I'm getting quite a bit of responses from those. They just appreciate, hearing from me and seeing my face. And it's that reassurance that we're still here and still working for our customers.
Love it, Lizzie. Thank you. Appreciate you. Barking dog. Circle it on the bingo. Barking dog.
Okay.
Lizzie, you're the best. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
So let me walk you through then. I think the video helps you, because we've got to remember that our communication is more than just words and tone. It's also body language. We want to work on that too. Hey, Ashley, put in the chat box, workbook page 89. Workbook page 89 has some scripts to help you with overcoming objections. Workbook page 89. Hey, Cassie, I want you to raise your hand. Raise your hand. I'm coming to you, Cassie, because you said something really smart. Here we go, Cassie. This is not a shift for you. You've been doing this stuff since 2012.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
I can.
Yay. So I've been doing video walkthroughs and posted them to YouTube right when I got into business in 2012.
And how's that working? How's it help you? Oh, I lost Cassie. Oh, that's too bad. She had good stuff. She said,
I just sold my 4th house in the same.
Cassie, your internet's cutting in and out. I'm gonna give you one more shot and then I'm gonna move on, okay?
Hey, are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, all right, just go ahead and mute her, Ashley. And maybe she can send me a note of what she was doing. She said, our team's been doing video showings, previews, and consultations truly since 2012. And on the showings, it's working for her. So type in the chat box. I'll fill in the blanks later. Here's another resource that I'd like for you to use to help you. It's page 93 in the manual and page 150 in the shift book. Page 93 in the manual and page 150 in the shift book. And page 93 through 95 walks through the script on how to have the conversation about what's in the market and what's out of the market, right? And every market is a tale of two markets. You have homes that are in the market and out of the market. Just write down page 150 through 154 in the shift book and page 93 through 95 in the manual. That's how you have this conversation right now. Again, show them graphs so they can see what's working. All right, give me your ahas on pricing real quick. Type them in the box. Give me your ahas on pricing, what stood out to you, and then I'm going to talk about buyer urgency. So give me your ahas on pricing. Type them in the box or raise your hand and I'll call on you. We covered all this. We covered all this. Here we go. Sold comps may be too late, Melanie. You're exactly right. So we want to pull the actives. Let the data do the heavy lifting. Thank you. Tell the truth. Absolutely. Figure that you just learned that you can pull the showing data from Showing Time. I love it. Be brutally honest, Lorraine says. Mark says visuals are easy. So I love it. Anybody's hand up, Ashley, to share?
No hands.
Okay, perfect. So y'all did a great job. All right, let's talk about buyer urgency. Whoops, I want to go one more slide up. I've covered all this, so we're going to go up here to buyer urgency. All right, so here's the deal. We've got to be priced right from the beginning, and then we have to help keep and stress the urgency for our clients. You know, it's interesting that when a market shifts, buyers and sellers can operate from a place of fear. Fear of making a bad decision, fear of making a choice in the moment that they shouldn't make. And we've got to be aware that this can be an emotional time. Now, the things that are really, really important to us are following this model: able, ready, and willing. Now, Lisa Spencer covered this for us last week, or yesterday rather. She did a great job. And Ashley, I think you sent out the script to everybody so they can have kind of what Lisa said.
I did.
Yeah, Lisa Spencer did a great job with that. Able, we want to make sure they have the ability to buy. And right now, quite frankly, the mortgage industry might be a bit confused. I don't work in that industry. It's just what I see and hear from people. There's just a lot going on there. So we got to check on that. And their buying power is probably the best right now as it's going to be for a while. Number two, their personal reasons. We've got to know why they're making the move. And then number three, are they willing? So based on the market, are they able to do that? So I want to walk through a little bit of this for you to help you. And that is understanding some of the things to help you overcome reluctance. And there's 4 strategies that we can look at that are going to help us. And we've got to be able to explain these to people, right? So remember, earlier I said a buyer's market is a skill-based market. And it's important to know to practice your skills and practice your scripts. So I'm going to ask some questions, and I'd like some people to answer. So raise your hand. And here are 4 ways that you can overcome the reluctance. And that is explaining the hazards of attempting to time the market. because people go, hey, I want to wait. And we got to walk through why waiting is not maybe always the best idea. So somebody raise your hand and share with people, what would you say to a buyer who says they want to wait? And how would you explain the hazards of waiting? Raise your hand. I want to hear from you, because, you know, sometimes buyers want to avoid, sometimes we want to teach them to avoid trying the market and help them understand their opportunity. Okay, Carrie, you're getting unmuted. You might have to click the microphone yourself to unmute. And we're going to hear your thoughts on why waiting, what the hazards are of trying to time the market. Carrie, what you got? Carrie, are you there? There we go.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, you know, waiting, I've been through, this is my third shift. So buyers want to sit on the side because they're following the crowd and they're afraid to make a move. So our job is to let them know it is a good time to buy. Interest rates are low and there's not much competition out there. So there's not multiple offers. So if you do have cash and it's a good time to buy, take advantage of the market.
We have to educate them, Carrie, right?
Right.
Got it. Love you. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. I see Marco come up, and then Ashley, I'm going to move to the next question. All right. So Marco, when you get unmuted, you're going to share. Marco, how would you explain the hazards of timing the market to a buyer or seller right now?
That can be a very dangerous situation. I mean, right now we know interest rates are low. We know certain loan programs are available, and we know there is some inventory. Everything could change overnight, which we're seeing some massive changes in lending with just overlays from some local banks. So waiting could be actually catastrophic.
Thank you, Marco. Genius. I like it. And I love your accent. Madison wrote it in too. Don't you always sound smarter with an accent? I think is really important.
That's why I've been practicing it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Good job. All right. So I heard Ashley laugh out loud. All right. Next is trade up. And that's the opportunity of a down market. And so I'd like someone to share, how do you discuss the trade up opportunity to a buyer so that we can help them through that? And then I'll walk you through another example. So Ashley, do we have a hand up?
We do not.
Okay, no worries. I want you to think, go ahead. Okay, Leslie's back. I love Leslie. She's fantastic. Leslie, I want you to walk the people through the opportunity of a trade up.
All right, so this is about the percentage of the difference that you have to lower your price to get it sold. So the smaller house that you're living in right now has to go down 10%, which might only mean $10,000. But the bigger house that you want to purchase is $200,000. They've had to go down 10%, which means they had to go down $20,000 to sell their house.
So you actually make money, don't you, Leslie?
You'll make money.
Yeah, you make money by moving up, and we've got to explain it to them. Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate you very much. Yep. And in fact, I actually think that's a target group to reach out to. I think that we always have an area in the market where it moves from seller's market to buyer's market. As prices move up, we move more into a seller's market. Leslie, what if we went and found our buyer who is a move-up buyer that lives, right now they currently live in a seller's market and they're moving into a buyer's market? They can make up a lot of equity just like that, can't they?
Oh my gosh, that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I had an agent do that with me, I'll tell you. So Ashley Gaddis, who's in Tampa, she's our agent, helps us. She called me one day and she said, James, there's a house in the neighborhood that your best friends live in that I think you should go look at. And I said, Ashley, we are not moving. We love our house. We're sticking right where we are. And she said, well, do me a favor, just come look at it. And I said, fine. So we go look at it. We walk in. And, you know, it's bigger than my house, maybe by about 1,000 square feet. It's got the bonus room, which I'd always wanted. It's got a 3-car instead of a 2-car. And it's 5 doors down from our best friends. And it was listed for $525, Leslie. And I go, I'm not paying $525. And she goes, well, it's not worth $525. I go, well, what do you think it's worth? She goes, $465. This house is worth $465. I went, oh. Well, I had paid about $365 for the house that we were living in. And I said, what do you think my house is worth? And she says, I think you can sell it for $425. Like, I think the house you're in right now is in a seller's market, and this house I'm showing you is a buyer's market. I went, well, let me show it to Terry. And so I said, Terry, come look at the house. She says, we're not moving. And I said, well, let's just go look at it anyway. We go look at it anyway. And she goes, this would be fantastic. This would be fantastic. So I said to Ashley, all right, do me a favor. Call the listing agent of the 525 house and throw out this 465 number and see what they say. Okay, Leslie, here's my question. which house am I doing my video from? The original house or the new one?
You're doing it for the new house.
Yeah, I am, because the seller said they would take the 465, and I sold my old house for 425. I took all that equity, put it in here. My mortgage payment went up $12, and now I have 1,000 more square feet, a bonus room, a 3-car garage. I mean, so I think that, and by the way, that deal was created from the agent looking for where is the trade-up opportunity, and she made the call. Leslie, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Less is more. We got to narrow the field. Now, here's the thing that I think is the deal right now. Inventory is still tight, except buyers might think they have more options. So what we need to do is make it less is more, right? You really narrow that field for them and have a conversation around that there's really only 5 houses that match your search. And if you like these 5 houses, somebody else does too. We got to move quickly. Finally, the last one is a best buy list, and that is create a list of homes that you think are best buys. That could be for sale by owners. It could be inventory properties that builders have. It could be a home that you went on the market, went to go list and didn't list. So just have some materials to help people. All right, so that's buyer reluctance. I want you to type your AHA in the box, and then we're going to talk about bulletproofing the transaction, and then we'll get our AHAs for the day. So what AHAs did you get from addressing buyer reluctance? Type them in the box. Trade up for sure, Ashley. Ashley, I'm going to tell you that was a massive aha for me, because we are in a house now that we would never have been in otherwise. We're happy, and our agent did almost $1 million in volume from doing that. You're exactly right. Rates are low is a huge aha. Trade up, trade up, trade up. Everybody's saying trade up. Okay. I want to talk about bulletproofing the transaction. Bulletproofing the transaction. Ashley, I'm on page 121. Page 121 of the manual. Page 121 of the manual. And I want people to type in the box or raise their hand and tell me what are the bulletproofing challenges that we're encountering right now in the transaction to close process, and how have you handled them? What are the challenges you've encountered in the transaction to close process, and how have you handled those? And here's one. Cassie says, the conversation from yesterday, she got her seller to get a roof inspection. That's great. I love that. Appraisals. Alan, you're back, buddy, and I'm excited to hear from you. You might have to unmute yourself. There you are. What's happening with your bulletproofing right now?
We've done forward pricing with the last couple listings that we have remaining, because we've sold the rest of them. And what we found is just really articulating the timeline, letting them know what's coming. The pre-inspections we were already into. But that's just a beautiful idea, and then basically setting the expectations really hard in the beginning of what we need to do to close this transaction.
So what are those conversations looking like?
It's changing week over week. We lost one contract that basically somebody lost half their income. They were working with Coldwell at the time. And basically lost the deal. And what we did with the seller is we went back through the inspection list that they had. He spent everything necessary to get it ready, and the attitudes are changing day over day.
Good. Love that. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate you very much. Samantha Spears, you are so smart. You're an absolute genius. You get the gold star for the day. You said bulletproofing the transaction equals bulletproofing the relationship. We said that on one of our 8 a.m. calls. That's exactly what you're doing. And what I'd like everyone to do, I want you to write down page number in the shift book, 262. 262 all the way up through 270. 262 through 270. And that's where Gary talks about proactive prevention and employing early response. You know, and Gary says in the book, page 263, in nearly every situation, it is effective to remind people about the intended results of their decisions and actions. This is called outcome framing, and every great salesperson uses this effective technique. We have to remind our buyers that there's only a few deals on the market and they're under contract on one of those. We've got to remind our sellers why they're moving and how this helps them move forward. So we've got to do that. We've got to take proactive prevention. Another way you take proactive prevention is you do the inspection up front. Another way you do proactive prevention. Here's what I do right now. If you have a buyer you're working with, I want you to have them get a backup pre-approval with Keller Mortgage. or whoever lender you choose, right? Have a backup pre-approval right now because some lenders' stuff is changing overnight. And then I want you to write down page 266. Page 266 is how you handle early response. Joe Kipping and some others said it earlier. You have constant communication with the people that you're working with to bulletproof the transaction. You expect the expectations. You solve problems, and then you contract to close track. You update them on what's going on. And Gary goes in great detail on those page numbers I gave you, 262 all the way up through 270. Bulletproofing the transaction is really important. All right. We finished for today. I'll tell you, this was good stuff. This is real good stuff. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how you shift into action. And then we have a panel of some agents and leaders that have battled shifts before that I'm very excited about. So I'd like for you to raise your hand. Now's the time to ask a question or to share an aha as we put a bow on today. We've got about 10 minutes left. Someone says, this is the best shift I've ever taken. I needed it more than ever. Leslie, thank you. And thank you for contributing. I love it. Thank you so much. So I want to hear some ahas. Let's take 5 minutes for ahas or questions. Alan, thank you, James. James, the check for shift is getting donated to doctors and nurses for food. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate you. Crystal, what's your aha or question?
Well, I was exhausting myself when I was doing my lead gen, but to know that part of the lead gen time that I've blocked off can be the preparing and the maintaining is actually part of that 4-hour block is actually a relief. So now I know that I can do the same amount of time, but get more work done.
Love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Mark says, buy up right now. Yeah, absolutely. Love that. Love that. Great one. AHA is the trade up. Shift happens. Thanks, James, for helping us clean it up. You got it. The shift class has totally changed how our team is doing business moving forward. All of us have less than 4 years in the biz, and shift is working. Thank you for saying that. I think that when you apply the things we're talking about here over the last 3 days, make this the way you run your business forever, and you'll always succeed. Michael says, or Michelle says, as new agent, this is awesome. Thank you. You're welcome. Megan, I love the part about time blocking and writing handwritten notes. That's good. Ashley, as we have more ahas come in, I want them to raise their hands and hear from them. Ken, joined Keller Williams, been an agent for a year. My first shift, awesome. I love it. Watch the recorded videos over and over. Yeah. Is there a page in the book in Shift that talks about the 4-hour lead gen? Yes. Now you're putting me on the spot. I'm going to find it. Hold on. Chapter 4. Hey, Joe, we're going to unmute you while I find this page. Joe, what's the lesson aha or question for you?
So question for you, when we're going to get feedback from some of the agents, or if an agent calls us and their client is in love with the house, we're hearing people tell us that, okay, well, the client is actually now going to wait and they're not going to move forward with anything due to the economic, their uncertainty of what's happening in the marketplace right now. What are some things that you say to that agent to try to get him to coach his agent right, or his client right?
Yeah, so the co-op agent is a big deal, right, Joe? And and so here's what I want you to think about is 2 things. Number one, I'd ask the question: if the coronavirus wasn't going on right now, would they still want to buy? And what's the answer going to be?
Yes.
So outside of coronavirus, is there any other reason why they wouldn't buy?
Okay.
And the answer is no, likely. Okay, so what specifically has them wanting to hold off? So that's the direction I would go. The other thing, Joe, is why don't you do this? Could your seller write them an offer?
Sure.
Right. So your seller could go and we could totally bunny trail this. So team leaders, you fix the mess I'm going to create. Your seller could just go pull out a purchase agreement, write them an offer and say, look, we would like to help your buyers be able to pull this off right now and make it happen. So here, we've written you an offer. What do you think? And have that dialogue with them. I think you got to coach your people that it's not pause time. If coronavirus wasn't around, would they still want to buy? Yes. So is there anything other than that that's preventing them from buying? No. What specifically about coronavirus is having them stop? And it could be, hey, they're getting all their down payment from this account and it's fluctuating too much. They're nervous. Like there's a lot. Job security is one. Look,
Sure.
if you're worried about job security, right now is the time to buy. Like get in the house now. You still need a place to live. So, and then we can work the other part out later. So Joe, you got to have a conversation with them and you have to be patient and don't get mad at them.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I'll never get mad, but I'm gonna actually do the offer because we had a conversation with a buyer agent yesterday, and he said his client's holding off on making an offer. They were gonna make an offer, and now they're gonna hold off, and I'm gonna actually have the conversation with my seller to make them an offer.
Write
That's
them one.
actually
Yeah, you
really
got
good
it.
idea.
Love it. Thank you so much. Real quick, I want to address, before I go to Janet, I want to address, somebody asked the page number where he talks about the 4 hours. I love you're all putting page numbers in. You're wrong. It's actually page 80, page number 80. Here's what he says on page number 80. Your goal is consistent lead generating, and the way you do it is seeing your job as lead generation first and servicing second. When you go to the movies, you turn off your cell phone and don't allow any distractions or disruptions for a couple of hours, and you focus on the movie. Unless there's an absolute crisis, you do not interrupt the movie, and it works for you. You do this all the time for personal pleasure, so I want you to do it for business success. I want you to go to the movies every day for at least 5 days a week for 3 hours in the morning and 1 to 1.5 hours in the evening. That's what he says. Janet.
Yes.
What you got?
I think getting them to have a backup pre-approval letter from Keller Mortgage. I haven't yet used Keller Mortgage. This will be really great, a great opportunity for me to get to know it and also protect my buyers, because we're negotiating some turbulence in a deal I'm in right now. And, you know, anything I can do to get around the turbulence and land the plane on closing day, that's my goal.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I want to comment on some people who are saying, look, if they don't have a job, they can't buy. I know that. I want you to remember the 3 C's, right? Care, compassion, common sense. Care, compassion, common sense. If they have to stop, they have to stop. I get there's a segment of the people that cannot buy. There are also some people who are buying into fear who actually can buy, and we've got to help them move forward. KW Classic says 5 pages of notes with action steps. I love you. Thank you. Rachel, you get the last word before I'll let Ashley do any housekeeping. So I'm glad you're sharing an aha with me. Rachel, what you got?
Yeah, I just had another question. I wanted to find out what your response would be to this. So I had a buyer that was very interested in purchasing a secondary home down here, and I've been working with her for probably, I don't know, over a year now. And she was starting to get very serious from what I could tell. And so I went and videoed a property for her this week, and she fell in love with it, obviously virtually. And I even got someone on the phone with her. I got her insurance quotes. I got someone talking about 30 Airbnbs that they've run. And then she thought it over, talked it over with her husband, and sends me a long email last night and says, you know, we just don't feel comfortable with COVID-19, especially because Airbnbs are shut down. And we don't feel like we can move forward, even though we're in love with the property. And I guess it's not
sounds
that I
like
don't
you need to
feel.
call her, Rachel. Sounds like you need to call her and have a conversation, and talk with her about her goals. And let's remember a couple of things. Number one, Airbnb isn't shut down forever, so they put a hold on, vacation rentals for a period of time, and yet they're not over forever. Now, when they buy the house, is there going to be a window to get us to closing?
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
Then are they probably going to do some things to the house?
No, it's actually ready to go. I was thinking of suggesting this, but I don't know what your recommendation is. But I was thinking of suggesting maybe she initially try to get like a 6-month rental and then switch it to an Airbnb, because I mean, the truth is if some of these people, there are going to be some people, unfortunately, in our market that can't afford a mortgage anymore or need a rental. And maybe she could just provide a long-term rental in the meantime until she could get the Airbnb up
So I
and
think
running.
I think you got to walk through options with her in timelines. And, remember you want to do probably 7 months or more rental in Florida, or I think it's considered temporary. So make sure you talk to your broker about that. And before you call her, and then just walk through options. I think that's the conversation we got to have, is look at options. At the end, if they go, look, we want to wait this out, and you walk through options with her, then what do? You wait it out, and eventually this will be over and you get her back in. You got to tell her, though, the hazards of waiting, the hazards of timing, what might show up there, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate you. All right, everybody, we're done for today. I appreciate it. Hope you got something out of it and got some value. I'm super excited about tomorrow, because tomorrow we're talking about shifting into action to give you your plan, and then we're going to do our mastermind. North Florida is amazing. I love you. Absolutely amazing. We'll see you tomorrow. Ashley, anything you need to cover before we're done?
We are good. Great job, James. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's my pleasure. We'll see y'all next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.